IGN pulls an Xbox. Hello and welcome to Triangle Square, a PlayStation podcast. I'm your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, as always, is one Mr. Chris Figs. Chris, how you doing today?
Oh, just wonderful. How are you, Brett?
I'm here, and it's been a long day. I'm a little worn out. Got a lot of stuff done. It doesn't get any easier tomorrow. Having kids and approaching summer is like, I love my daughters. There's nothing like that, but there's just so much shit going on, and it's so hot that it feels like a micro hell. So do what you will with that information. But if you're new to the show, first and foremost, welcome. We hope you enjoy the show. This week is not really packed with a whole bunch of much to talk about. There's a game that released today that a lot of people thought would be another one of Xbox's big releases that seems to be divisive, though still doing a lot better than another game that was quite divisive for the opposing side. So we may talk about that a bit. We're going to talk about IGN going all Xbox on everybody and buying out a ton of competition, or at least buying stuff to strengthen themselves, and then take a look at some of the PlayStation Plus games catalogs that were going on. So not going to be a lot news-wise today. We'll just kind of do what we always do, discuss what we've been playing, come into random topics as they appear, and then go through some questions that you guys, the listeners, have asked us or wanted us to talk about. But before we get into that, we will start this show off in the way that we always do, where we check in on what Chris and I are playing so that we can either put each other onto new games, or maybe put you onto something you didn't know about, or maybe share some thoughts about something that you've been curious to hear our thoughts of, if not outright pushing you away from something you thought you had interest in, but you just may not. So Chris, without further ado, what have you been playing this week?
Not a ton. That needs a ton of time. I've been spending a lot more time with MLB this week.
Any reason in particular?
I don't know, man. I've been tired, so when I've just been sitting down, I haven't been like, oh, let's sit and focus on this. And it's weird because I do need to focus on MLB, but it's baseball, so there's like a lot of downtime, obviously.
Well, and it's also it's a little less active because it's like second nature reflex. So like you're focused, but it's kind of like when you really start to understand Balatro. It becomes a game that you can just be playing, and I haven't played Balatro in some weeks now. I need to get back to it. But I noticed that the longer I played it, the more it became like a comfort game. You can just put it on. It doesn't require a lot of initial thought, even though it does require thought. But it's like very second nature thought. You know what you're looking for, and you know what you got to go through, and it doesn't activate or require your brain in the same way as playing something you're unfamiliar with does.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it's been, grinding out my cards. I unlocked some high-end cards through events recently, which was nice. My team's looking pretty solid, so any challengers want to step up to the diamonds, you let me know.
So is this another one of those games where you've gotten the platinum, but you didn't go ahead and delete it, as we talked about?
MLB, yeah. This is like the specific game I called out. I think this and Helldivers are the only two I didn't immediately delete. And as I said in our Discord today, I'm like, I don't think I'm ever going to play Helldivers again. But it's still there just on the off chance I get peer pressured into it. But I don't think it'll be my choice.
I still really like Helldivers, but I needed a healthy break from it. And there's plenty of things I haven't played. So it's like the platinum gives me plenty of reason to step away until something big enough happens to want to pull me back in. You know what I mean?
Well, and it was one of those things for me where it was like, I didn't really give a shit about the meta game. I was never like, oh, we have to go to Dinkeldorf and fight the automatons so that we can free the slaves or whatever we were doing. And I was just like, I'm just playing to shoot shit. I don't care about this. Like, let's just play the best version. So it's not a driving force to get me back to Helldivers. So I'm not sure what it'll take to bring me there, back there. But it's nothing against it. It's just I'm done playing it now.
Well, it's kind of where I'm at with a game like Destiny, where I've been curious to see what Helldivers is going to do that feels big enough to want to pull me back in for another big stint.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I don't think they're quite there. They're not really doing seasons. They're just doing battle passes. But the battle passes are coming pretty frequently, it feels like.
Definitely.
And so it feels like it's too often for one of them to pull me back in. So I don't think that that's going to be a big driver. I think what will probably happen is if somebody I haven't talked to in a while is like, hey, you want to hop on and play some Helldivers? I'm like, yeah, cool. I could do that. I have the game installed. I enjoy the game. I just don't feel the same, oh, something big's happening. So like Destiny sometimes would get me there because for as much as and yes, Velvet, I am aware we're 5 minutes into the show, we're talking about Destiny.
It wasn't my fault.
But of course, talking about Destiny insofar as it's a live service game that manages to pull people back again and again and again. The thing about Destiny is that for all the things I don't love about live service games that Destiny is a shining example of, there's also the side that I do like the story. I do like what was happening with the characters, and the good and bad of it being a live service game is that they can continue to build and build and build on that. But the downside is it feels like it takes way longer than the traditional story setup would. So whenever big story events happen, it can typically pull me back in, though I found it's usually one expansion, skip, one expansion, skip. So I don't think I'll go back and play Lightfall, even though it's free on PS Plus, but I can see myself playing the final shape. I don't necessarily know about playing it day one, but I can see myself playing it in general.
Yeah, there's definitely no chance for me. But
my curiosity is if Helldivers is going to do something like that, or if it's just going to continue to be, hey, here's a pretty steady, trickle of, new bug types, new automaton types, maybe a new enemy type across the board, like it's been hinted. Some new planets, maybe some new, that's all fine. But I do think that if that's it, the game will probably see a more normal multiplayer game's lifespan of about a year or two of really being pretty populated, and then it'll probably start to level, down quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's never going to stay at 500,000 concurrents or whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't think they want that anyway. I mean, ideally everyone wants it, but they don't actually expect to be able to maintain that is my assumption.
I don't know. For me, it's just, I don't know. I have MLB is my live service game. I'm just not really looking. And it's in the same spot as Destiny, where it's like, maybe I would play it, but I'm not going to commit to it. So there's no point. And that's kind of where I'm at with Helldivers. Like, I'm not going to buy the new Battle Pass. I'm not going to finish it. So it's a great game. I don't know. There's talking a lot of shit about it, but it's just something that I think we're both just done playing for now. I think I'm probably more done playing it than you. I think it would be one of those. It would be one of those games where, like, in party chat, we were all talking, like, what are we going to play? I would give every option besides Helldivers, but I would launch Helldivers and play it with you. That's kind of where I'm at on it. I've just been past it.
Well, what's weird about a game like that, though, is I think you're right. I am mostly done playing it, but I get it from the standpoint of, I think you're a bit different than I am. That's why it's a little surprising that you're as done with it as you seem to be. But I don't really have a big history of interacting across multiple games for thousands of hours on multiplayer heavy games. I often say that I would honestly prefer the multiplayer game lifespan to go back to the 1 year to 2 year support window where it gets a lot of player base. And then the game is like, we'll keep the servers active, but we're not supporting this game anymore. We're off to our next thing. But I started thinking the other day that made sense when multiplayer games would have, like, the multiplayer was being supported until the game's next launch or the next game's launch from whoever that person was. Well, that was because back then you typically were releasing a game every 2 to 3 years. And we're getting to the point where a game like Hellblade, which is reported to be somewhere around the 6-hour mark of gameplay time, which is not inherently a problem for me. I don't care how long a game is as long as it's good. But I do think it begs the question of, has game development gotten so crazy that we don't get a sequel to Hellblade, which came out in 2017, mind you, until 2024, and the sequel is still only 6 hours? The only comment I have at all is that feels like a long time for a 6-hour game. Definitely one that's a sequel So you've already done a lot of your world setting up. You kind of know what you're playing into. This isn't setting up a new IP in the same way. So that feels like a really long time. And so going back to multiplayer games with it, I feel like maybe the real reason multiplayer's died like that is because the next game from these studios probably isn't ready in that 2-year time period. And so you need to find a way to support the game for 4 years, maybe 5, maybe 6. And suddenly you've been supporting it so long that it's hard to just walk away from because players have been playing it too long. It's become daily, weekly, monthly routine or whatever. And it feels like too big of a player base to let go of. So I think a mixture of things led us to here, but I'm perfectly okay with treating a game like Helldivers, hopping in, playing a couple 100 hours, being like, cool, I'm done with this game. Give me the next one. Give me the next one in a few months, or maybe in a year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great game. Like if it was 10 years ago and it was like I bought Helldivers and that was my game because it's all I could afford, sure, but I we played Helldivers a lot, 50 hours or so, got the platinum, and there's hundreds of games coming out every day, probably literally. So I'm not going to stick with it.
I probably played for 100, maybe hundreds of hours. But
speaking of games that came out recently that I've been playing, Assassin's Creed 2 is on my list.
Yeah, that game came out just yesterday, I feel like.
It was a certain number of yesterdays ago, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
So what made you go back to Assassin's Creed 2? Just wanting to play the Ezio trilogy again?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I was halfway through when I started it, but I remember why I stopped playing it, and it's because I was trying to get up to this eagle's nest, and I just couldn't do it. The building was impenetrable. It just turned out that I hadn't gotten far enough in the game to get like the grab while you're jumped higher in the air, so I couldn't do it. But that literally stopped me from playing the game for like 3 years. Because I was going back for the platinum, I think, during the solo trophy competition. And that just pissed me off so much I stopped playing. And then just on a whim, threw it back on. I was like, fuck, I'm just going to do the missions. And then found myself on the top of that tower about 2 hours later. And I was like, oh, there we go. It's funny because Assassin's Creed 2 is good in context. I think it's a little mediocre in 2024. There's a lot of stuff I didn't remember that isn't good.
Yeah,
like it requires some very precise platforming in the puzzle sections for a game whose platforming is not very precise anymore. Like I remember playing it and it felt great whenever it came out, 2005 or whatever the fuck. I don't remember when it came out. But I think
now you got me really wondering. 2010 or maybe?
10. Yeah, I think AC1 is 10, and then
I think AC1 was like 08.
Yeah, it was a launch PS3 game or Xbox game actually.
It wasn't launch. Assassin's Creed 2 was 09.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think a lot of the stuff that is in the game that is frustrating me now is stuff that was normal for back then. Mm-hmm. Some of the missions are really boring. Like there was one where I had to just go around and pickpocket ribbons from prostitutes and then do races. And again, not very precise platforming. The game expects you to be precise with your platforming to a degree. But in the end, it's still fantastic. Ezio's awesome. Leonardo's a great character. So it's a really great game.
There's something to be said about playing a game many years after its release and feeling weird about trying to compare it to modern games. And I tend to find that the best games for that problem are the games that never really compared to their contemporaries anyway. Like Shadow of the Colossus is kind of just a timeless game because there's not much like it. So there's not very good comparison points. And so when you play it, there's parts that may feel odd or a little dated, but they don't feel dated in the same sense of, oh, modern platforming games are so much tighter and they can run at 60 frames per second, which gives me a higher sense of control than this probably not even consistently 30 frames per second Assassin's Creed 2. So when you're looking at things like that, I still was surprised. They did a little bit to update the handling and stuff, but the remake of Shadow of the Colossus it feels timeless in the same way that replaying the PS2 version feels timeless, in the same way that playing the PS3 remaster felt timeless. And it kills me that you still haven't played that game. But I wonder to this day whether it's really going to land with you or not, but yeah. I really expected to feel a bit more of that when replaying Infamous 2 than I did. And I'm happy to say that Infamous 2, for the most part, doesn't suffer from that terribly. But in replaying even the first hour of Infamous 1 suffers terribly. Mm-hmm. And I love Infamous 1 in memory. And I still think it's a great story, and there's still great things about the game today. But that game is dated in every single sense of the word.
Yeah. I tried. I went back to try and get the platinum, and I just can't do it. I can't bring myself to play Infamous 1.
I really want those games to get a remake. I think that
I don't even want a remake. I just want a remaster port. Maybe update.
But here's the thing. If you're just remastering it, you're not fixing any of the problems that Infamous 1 has.
No. But they can still...
You can do like the Metroid remaster where you tweak the shit out of it.
Right, exactly. I don't know. I don't know how they would do it. Put it in the Ghost of Tsushima engine and just see what happens. But I don't know. I would love to see them do more with Infamous, but it's just going back to any old games. I think I've talked about this on the show. Like, I struggle going back past the PS3.
Oh yeah.
Like I was trying to play Scarface, The World Is Yours on my PS2, and I was like, this is I remember this being a great game, but this is so hard to play. It's just so hard to play.
Yeah. And that goes to what I was talking about with Shadow of the Colossus. Part of what makes it so weird is that is a PS2 game, which usually is the type of game that's hard to go back on. But here's the thing about PS2. There's a handful of PS2 games that are still great enough that even playing them today, I'm not saying that they're just excellent in the same way, but they're surprisingly still playable. Like the OG Sands of Time is still actually a surprisingly fun game.
I think,
but that's just because they figured some kind of alchemy out about that game in particular. Where I will say, I don't think Warrior Within or The Two Thrones are as playable and as modern feeling as Sands of Time is, despite Sands of Time being the oldest of the three.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it feels a lot more like, I don't know, trying to. It's all the quality of life stuff that we have nowadays that make it hard. Even small stuff you don't even think about nowadays is quality of life, but just more precise aiming with the right stick. That was my biggest issue with Scarface, was I had trouble aiming, because I'm used to like precise, like point at head, shoot at head kind of stuff, and it feels like in the PS2 era especially, but the PS3 has this issue too. It feels like a lot of these are like shoot around until the reticle hits the guy's head, and it's hard to play games that way.
Even Infamous has a bit of that, like even Infamous 2, where they're pretty forgiving, and it's baked into the game's design where it's like, well, you have a limited amount of electricity, but if you're just doing a normal bolt, we're going to be pretty liberal with, it's not going to use a whole lot of energy, and you can kind of spam it till you hit. So yeah, I'm kind of with you, and this is going to be a sore point for some people, but it's actually the reason I don't really love a lot of Rockstar's PS3 output is something about shooting in that era. For most third-person shooters, definitely ones that choose to use the circle reticule as opposed to the crosshair setup, a lot of them just don't feel tight enough for what they're trying to do. And that's a problem that I think all the games have, but Infamous settles that a little bit by being like, well, what you're shooting is a pretty big ball of electricity. Mm. So it has a higher chance of hitting. But in a game like Red Dead or Grand Theft Auto, where you're shooting actual bullets that are bullet-sized bullets, you feel the looseness of it more than you should, I feel like. And the best of Rockstar's PS3 360 output was Max Payne, and it still had the problem. It was just the best of the three, in my opinion. Max Payne 3 is the only Rockstar game on PS3 that I beat all the way through.
Really?
Because it's the only one I could stand to play for long enough to do so.
You're a wild man.
That's why I wonder, going back to Red Dead 1, since they've ported it now, I wonder if that problem is still so prevalent, or if they've tweaked that a little bit, or if the 60 frames helps that. I don't know. So far, I'm curious if Red Dead 1 in the right context can hold my attention, because I never beat it.
I don't know how to answer that question, because I think Rockstar has the best gunplay in the industry. So I don't really know how to have that conversation. And that's so wild to me,
but that's just
because you're just objectively wrong. So
it goes to my Killzone 2 and 3 feeling better than 90% of first-person shooters in their respective era, in my opinion. And I know that that's just a real outlier opinion. So,
yeah. That is certainly an outlier opinion. But yeah, I mean, there's not much more for me to talk about on my list. I've gotten back into Slay the Spire.
So what's up with Banishers? Did it just fall by the wayside for now?
Dude, I want to give it its due, and I just didn't have the energy to pay attention to a video game this week. Like, that's the thing. It's a weird thing with games and working, especially. It's like something like Banishers, like I want to pay attention to, but then I sit down and I'm just like, I don't have the energy in me to pay attention to this right now. So I will hopefully give it some more time on my next day off. I would like to.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see. My hope is that you don't end up somehow accidentally pushing past it, because I'll say I fell victim to that, right? Like, I fell off of Hogwarts Legacy, and probably gonna ruffle somebody's. For the type of game it is, I really liked Hogwarts Legacy. I think Banishers is a better game to my sensibilities than Hogwarts Legacy is to my sensibilities.
Yeah.
But my point being there is, even a game that I really enjoyed when I came back in the right mindset, Hogwarts Legacy, I fell off of just strictly due to bad timing. And so I hope that you don't end up falling off of Banishers that way, but unfortunately you don't always seem to have control of being able to actually keep yourself in a mood where you're in the right headspace to play something.
No.
And Banishers is a surprisingly emotionally heavy game. So depending on what you have going on in your life, I don't know that it's a game that you're like, fuck yeah, let's throw that on.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it too. Is it's been a weird week for me. So it's just one of those games where it's like, I will get to it. I want to play it. It hasn't been deleted. I like it, so there's no quitting it. It's just a matter of paying attention to it.
I got you. All right. So
well, you talk about your next game. I played X Defiant. It just came out. I got like 4 matches in. It's cool. It feels like old Call of Duty.
And
I like
that was its whole mission statement, right?
Yeah.
It was like
the boots on the ground.
The multiplayer games. Yeah, the multiplayer games of yore.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't have a ton to say about it. You're not going to play it, so it's a game that's out. It has guns. Shoot them. It is cool how they integrate like the Ubisoft universe. Like, it's like the DedSec.
Oh, is it a Ubisoft title?
Yeah. So DedSec is a faction. Ghost Recon Wildlands has a faction. Far Cry 6 has a faction. Splinter Cell has a faction. Without Sam Fisher, you'd think whatever.
It's like Siphon Filter with no Gabe.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you doing?
It's like, we're putting Ashley in. Is that Ashley was the female character, right?
I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I do not know. Okay.
Either way. While you start talking about your game, I got this really nice Balatro sweater. It's fantastic. It's also fucking hot. So I'm going to change quick.
Can't blame you. It's why I don't like pullovers. They catch you in a trap. All right, I'm going to have to blur Chris's crack out, but other than that, I think we're doing all right. I've mainly been playing Stellar Blade, which I beat, and I'm happy to report that one of the things I was worried about with the game, or I say worried about, one of the things that I thought maybe needed a little bit more work, I think the game kind of struck a better balance late on, which I thought was the story and the scenario. I think that it pulled towards something a little bit better than what I thought before. I still think that it's Metacritic score landing is kind of right in the right spot. And I don't think it necessarily pulled the story up as something for me just massively. But one thing that I can say is one of those things where you can tell my time with the game by the time I did roll credits is I've come back around to initially Chris asked me if it felt like I was going to platinum it, and I pretty sure I straight up said probably not or no. And here I am about halfway through New Game Plus run because the combat and of course the fun of a New Game Plus where you have everything and it being there early on instead of having to wait for months like God of War and stuff does is pretty cool. I didn't do all the side content, and here's another weird reason as I was motivated. Somehow, Chris, you know how it is. I never look at trophy list. Somehow the ending I got from a multiple choice ending thing was the secret ending. Oh. So I don't know how the fuck the game is supposed to end, and there's still 2 other endings. I know that now. But part of what I looked at the trophy list because I was like, this game has got a little bit better story-wise, and I'm kind of invested in the game. And if I'm going to play it again, it's better to keep rolling forward and doing it. And I looked at the trophy list, and I was like, wait, what are these 2 endings? And so I looked the 3 endings up just to see, and it was like, this is the main ending, this is ending 2, and this is a secret ending. And I was like, oh, that's the trophy I got. So I got the secret ending. So I'm playing back through to see the other endings out.
Nice, that's cool.
And we'll see what we do from there. But yeah, it's pretty cool seeing the going back in with New Game Plus and just having a power fantasy come through because I'm kicking ass. They do a good job with. I already liked character customization, and there's a lot of outfits I didn't get since I didn't do all the side content. So I'm getting some of them for the first time, and then a lot of the outfits have got New Game Plus variants. Where if you go to the same place that you got that outfit and you open that crate again, you get a color variant or design variant on one of the outfits you already had. Mm-hmm. And there's one where she wears like this red and black checkered hoodie that's like right below her, just it crops. It's like a crop hoodie. And it looks so good that it got to a point where I was like, I just feel like this is supposed to be the design for the game. Like this feels so accurate to the character that I wouldn't have been surprised if this was just like Bayonetta's outfit, where you're like, this is what you play as. I assume. I haven't played Bayonetta besides the first one a long time ago. But yeah, very impressed with the game. Mostly came back around to still thinking a really solid try across the first game of this stature. And I'm still curious to see what they end up doing next. I'm quite enjoying the game, and I urge anyone who's been curious on it to go back. It's got more content than you think, but also for being a modern JRPG, it's not stupidly long. If you just want to play through a game that you're going to enjoy combat and it's spicing it up here and there, getting a little dead space here and there. Yeah, all that's cool. It's all good. I think that it's a good game to go towards. I haven't really played anything else. Been a slow week. I ended up binge watching an anime from my buddy who moved recently. Let me borrow an anime that I saw sitting on a shelf before he moved when I was helping him. And I was like, dude, I don't know anyone else who knows this anime. And I've talked about it on the show once or twice before, but it's called S-Cry-Ed. So S-Cry-Ed, Scried, something like that. And it's an old, like 2001 anime, but it's awesome. And I watched all 26 episodes across the weekend with my wife. My wife ended up really liking the show, which has got us to the point where as we were like on the last episode, my wife was like, I really like this show. And it surprised me. And I was like, great. And we got through, and she's kind of where I'm at, where a lot of what keeps me from watching modern anime is how seasonal it is, to where you get like 10 episodes and then you have to wait 2 years to get 10 more episodes. And I'm just like, I don't give a shit anymore. And one of the things I like about old school anime is that whenever they ordered anime from a manga that was doing well, they just made the episodes until the show was done. So like they just made 54 episodes of Full Metal Alchemist. Like they got ahead of the manga and had to, Games of Thrones season 9 it, but you do what you can.
Yeah.
And then Trigun is just Trigun's story in like 11 episodes. And Evangelion's not super long. And this show is only 26 episodes. And I love that because it feels a little more connected. You can binge through. It feels like it's one idea. And I really hate when you get into a show and you're like, oh, cool, I got to wait 2 years before season 2 comes.
Yeah, I know that struggle. I was a Game of Thrones fan, so
it's so bad to the point where I want to binge things so much that I will just wait until it's over to watch it. I'll be like, oh, cool. The last season of that finally came out. Cool. I'll try it out now. I'll watch it. Because if I do like it, I know I can just binge through it. There's a lot of other things. I think older anime doesn't get into some of the same cliches we see in modern anime now. Like, you don't have the tsundere characters running around like crazy and getting worse. And shows are still brutal sometimes, but they're not brutal from a sheer shock value standpoint, which is something that's pretty common in modern anime right now. Like, Chainsaw Man's funny, and I've seen a lot of excerpts from it, and Saul was really into it, so he showed me things. And it's funny, and it looks pretty well animated. I like it. But it's also like, this is a bit much. It's a little too brutal too often, and then it's sometimes just like, there was no value in saying that outside of just shock value. And it's at some point, I don't care enough to just want to waste hours of my life on you trying to shock me because you want to talk about this demon lady who she refuses to flush in the toilet, turns into concrete in the bowl.
All right.
You know, so do what you will with it. I'm not really hating on modern anime so much as it's just, there's a few reasons why it tends to not land with me. So I do like binge watching older anime, even ones I've never seen, because they tend to be designed in a very different way than modern anime seems to, which is also somewhat indicative of modern manga versus older manga and where it's coming from. So either way is what it is. But all them Jujutsu Kaisen fans who are waiting 2 years for the next season, sorry. Don't know what to tell you.
I don't know. I get value out of both. I think I prefer the weekly model for TV personally. Like, I like having, this, the best time for Game of Thrones was between the last 2 seasons. Like, that was.
Yeah, why is that? Do they do weekly?
Well, the show comes out weekly, but then there was a year or two years between the season 7 and season 8. So there was 2 years of speculation and conversation and talking about the show, which by the time it came out, the speculation was better than the show was. So that to me was like the golden era when it wasn't even on TV, but we could all, like, everyone at work was talking about it and everyone at my house was talking about it. You know, I really enjoyed that part. And you don't get that
one of the
binging. Like Fallout. Nobody talks about Fallout anymore. And it was 3 days of, Fallout's really good, and then it's over. But how about, like, what's going to happen in the mall? You know what I mean? Like, what's going to happen next week? Like, you lose. There's a lot lost in that.
I both agree. I agree, and I don't care. That's basically the two sides. Like, I agree with you, but I don't think I often care enough about having those conversations with random people for my side. But the downside of that is that's actually, to your point, that is healthy for TV and for programming, to where it builds a long-term interest and creates a culture around it in a different way. I'm very content to just get a lump thing of content at once and be like, oh, I really like this. And I'm done with it, and I'll recommend it to other people, but I'm not having this what's going to happen, will they or won't they conversation. I'm just like, this is good. Here's this. And I think that's said in the fact of how I listen to music, right? Because, like, a lot of artists have moved towards singles, and you just release one single every 3 or so months, do a music video around it, make it a big deal, and then you keep going. And I fucking loathe that. I hate it so much, and I never listen to them. Instead, give me an album. I'll listen to that bitch from start to finish 1,000,000 times, to the point where it's basically one long song. And then I'm just like, this is golden. This is excellent. You should listen to this. And then somebody's like, oh, the single came out. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
I don't get that. I do not understand that at all for music. Like, I don't get it for TV, but I certainly don't get it for music. But I don't know. I don't have my relationship with music is this song is good. I don't give a fuck about albums. So maybe that's part of it. But, like, I don't understand if one song comes out and it's good, like, what is it? I don't understand that. That seems odd to me, but hey,
I think
whatever gets you going.
I think my brain chooses to, like, process things and, like, store it in my memory in, like, chunks. And so I think singles tend to just come and go, to the point where, like, I forget about them because they don't feel like a body of something. One of the things I really like about an album, and, like, okay, from a creative process on my side, one of the things I like about an album is the idea of being like, okay, we're working on all these songs across a long period of time, but all of these songs have a through line that we're kind of thinking about throughout this album process. Like, we're writing with a specific style and in a specific headspace and tone space, and maybe we're experimenting with a different sound for this album. And so all these songs are kind of interacting with that. And then you put the album out, and the album is like telling that whole story audio wise. It's like it's showing that arc across a longer period of time. So I think it's more memorable to me. I think my brain views it that way. I like listening to the songs in that way because I look at it and I think, even on the creative side, it's really difficult to be like, where do I put what on the album? Because like I want there to be a flow, a vibe. So it's just very different. And I think you would like this as a problem, but it'd be akin to putting out one chapter every 3 months of a book.
Yeah, that's straight up like the top contending option for how I'm planning on putting my book out. So
yeah, so I'm saying you would love that. I would loathe that. I would be like, what?
Yeah, but again, like I guess if you don't participate in the conversation, then yeah, you're not understanding. You wouldn't understand it. But I would also think that I would also argue that you're missing a distinct part of what makes a lot of movies and music for less music. But even in this like Kendrick and Drake thing going on, like I enjoyed the conversation more than the music. Like Not Like Us is in my playlist and like it'll be there forever, but like I don't give a shit about the music now, but I like listening to people talk about like the words that were in it and what people said. So if you're not invested in that part, then yeah, the weekly model isn't going to be great for you, but I just think it's objectively worse especially for TV. Like
it's so funny for music because I don't do playlists. I strictly listen to albums. And so that singles get left out by that. And that's one of the things that sucks, right? Because, of course, it's never a hard and true rule. There's the occasional single that just really makes its way out, and it's so good that you seek it out anyway. Mm-hmm. But that's a huge rarity. One good example is like Blessed Be is not on an album, and it's one of Spirit Box's best songs.
True. It is technically on an album, but...
What album?
It's like, I don't remember what they called it, but it's in a vinyl set, like as an album. It's like it's a white cover. It's basically their throwaways like all together. So like I said, technically on an album, but I don't know if it's on streaming that way. Not
in the same sense I'm talking. Yeah, but I get your point.
I know what you mean. But I'm just...
So I agree with you in that there's something that's missing there, but here's another thing while sticking kind of to the conversation around strictly singles. One of the things I think ends up being weird about singles is I feel like the flow of an album is a really weird thing because there are songs that I remember that I've heard from bands because my wife will listen to playlists or, something, or even sometimes a single will come out and I'm like, that single's not really doing it for me. Like when on the build up to Sleep Tokens album, right? Take Me Back to Eden. I remember they put out Do You Wish That You Loved Me? And I remember being like, this is a really odd single. And one of the weird things they did for that album is every single they released up until Do You Wish That You Loved Me was the first song, second song, third song, fourth song, fifth song. And then suddenly Do You Wish That You Loved Me was like 3 songs skip between them. Yeah. And it was weird because as you listen to the singles, they were in the album. You just couldn't see the songs that hadn't released from the album yet. There was like a gap between them. So I'd play the album and just listen to all the singles. But I remember thinking, this seems like a really weird single and a really weird song, and it doesn't match with the rest of what's going on here. And yet, it's one of the best songs on that record. It's so good. The whole record's incredible, so it's kind of hard to...
record, yeah.
But also, it goes to my point of, one of the things I really like about albums is that sometimes a song that doesn't work in its own context or on its own as well suddenly becomes an absolutely killer piece when in the context of the album that it's in. And a song like Do You Wish That You Loved Me, where it's at on the album is impeccably placed. It's so good. And it makes that song, which is already a great song, it makes you realize the greatness of that song even more. And you're just like, wow, this is incredible. And there's albums where I've heard and I've been like, I don't think that this song would be good out of context, or it wouldn't be as memorable. Mm-hmm. But when you put it in this context, holy shit, this album doesn't work without it anymore. It's like you have to have it.
That's like Kendrick has an album, To Pimp a Butterfly, which is a fantastic album. Everyone loves it.
First album, right?
That's his second album,
or at least his breakout
album. No, it's his third album. It was his biggest and most he won a Pulitzer for it. No, he won that for Damn. But either way, it's a great album, but it's one of those albums like I think I've said it to Blake when we've talked about it, where it's like I like it, but I would never listen to any of this outside of the album. And because of the way I listen to music, I will never listen to any of those songs because I will not listen to the album. Never. And it's weird because I'm a vinyl collector, but even like with vinyl, like I'll put on one side and then switch out.
Just switch albums entirely. You'd be like, well, this is this 3-song chunk.
Yeah, because for me, a lot of the times, like if I'm putting on like Rumors, like I'm putting on Rumors, you know what I mean? And then moving to a different song. But I will say, in terms of fucking album placement, we might have talked about this, but you gave me a platform to talk about it publicly. It still pisses me off that Welcome to the Black Parade is the second song on the Black Parade. I think we've had this conversation like 50 times. And
we've had it privately for sure.
I'm still passionately upset about it. It doesn't make any sense. Why is that the second song? The album's called The Black Parade.
Yeah, no, look, I get you, and that's pretty funny, and I even get the thought process there. What's more funny is that the song, it's not even the second song.
Right. It's not the first, but it should be the first song on the album.
It's the 5th song on the album.
That's so much worse. Because I knew it wasn't the first.
Here's what's funny. If all you did was call the song The Black Parade, it's solved.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter where it's at.
Exactly. But instead you called it Welcome, and it's the 5th. That makes my argument even more. The 5th song on the album The Black Parade is not Welcome. What are you talking about, man?
Yeah, because like Coheed and Cambria has an album that's pretty divisive. A lot of the fan group is pretty split on it, but it's an album called Year of the Black Rainbow. Mm-hmm. And the actual story that goes alongside this, because all the Coheed and Cambria stories are tied into like books and stuff, or graphic novels, and this one actually had a novel, like straight up book. And what it's all playing towards is this series of crazy events that lead towards this big penultimate thing. But if they had a song, there's a song called the Year of the Black Rainbow or whatever, but it doesn't matter where it's at because you're just saying this thing. But if they were like, welcome to the Year of the Black Rainbow, you'd be like, all right,
yeah,
let's start this shit immediately. But my favorite thing about the Black Parade album is that your complaint is that the first song is not the one that says welcome to the Black Parade. And what's more funny is the first song on the album is called The End.
Yeah.
I love it.
Like, I'm sure it's all thematic, but it pisses me off to no end.
It's like the Uncharted 2 of albums. So it's like they start really late and they're like, the end, and then the rest of the shit.
By the way, I have a Velvet's Corner today.
Okay.
I just thought of it.
All right. Well, look, it's not like we have a whole lot more to talk about. So how about we scooch over real quick into the 2 topics we do have to talk about and pull in to everything to Discord. A couple topics that we also have, or questions, whatever you want to call them, from some of our listeners. We'll get through that, and then we'll hop into what you're talking about here. So there's a few people talking about Hellblade 2. So I'm going to go ahead and hop into this and then answer a few questions, or answer the question we have around that. So as you may know, Hellblade 2 came out this today, and right now I think it's sitting at an 80 on Metacritic, which my year for Metacritic draft has been pretty good because I got an 80 and an 89 today with Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door remaster. So I'm doing pretty solid in that department. But starting today and seeing the review embargo live for it, I thought it was pretty interesting that the reviews sprang from a 9 to a 5, and you don't see that very often. Usually the scores are pretty tight. So if a game has a 9, you're going to see a 7 here and there. You're not usually going to see a 5. But then when you actually start looking into the reviews and what the game is, you can kind of get there. But the game came out and people are saying that there's things they think that they have taken a step back since the first game, both in terms of design, character building, actual scenario arc, combat, puzzles, all the things that you would have expected from a game that is built around these ideas seem to be taking a step back in enough people's opinions to cause a conversation around it. To Chris's point, this is the conversation around Hellblade right now. So with that in mind, we have a question from one of our listeners, RMG0731, over on the Discord, which you can enter by clicking the link in the description below, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on podcast services. He hopped in and he said, have either of you seen the issues surrounding Hellblade 2? Appears it is only a 5-hour game that is, who knows, 5 to 6, we'll call it. And 3 hours are cutscenes, apparently. Xbox has supposedly greenlit the next game, but with how quick things can change, I wonder what the security of the studio is like when they were posting the letter to gamers prior to release. Look, have you actually bothered to look into this much at all, Chris, or do you even care about Hellblade 2 enough to want to read into it? Because Hellblade 1 was a really good game to me, so of course Hellblade 2 has been on in my field of view, kind of going. Like, I want to play it eventually, but what's your thought?
My thoughts on Hellblade 2 are interesting to see how this went. I do not care. I didn't like Hellblade 1. I thought it was pretentious in an annoying way, and I don't want to play Hellblade 2 because it looks pretentious in an annoying way. And, reading the reviews, it sounds pretentious in a bad way. So I think I'm good, but I see the appeal of the first one. It just, to me, it was like, okay, I see you. It's as annoying as we have no waypoints in Ghost of Tsushima, which means you just have to hit up on the touchpad a bunch of times to get a waypoint in Ghost of Tsushima. I thought that was really annoying. And it's the same thing with Hellblade, where I think some of the stuff they're doing is cool and a good attempt to tell a story that is not happening a lot in games, but annoying and pretentious to me all the same.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Hellblade 1. I think a lot of it was just the ideas around it. I'm not saying Hellblade 1's a perfect game, but considering how it was made with a very small team and with relatively AAA design and feel and look to it, but clearly from not a AAA studio and with a pretty small budget. And I really liked watching the making of, because it was cool seeing them problem solve about how do you make something look really good while not spending the time you usually would have to take on making something look really good. And so a lot of the things I really liked were the introduction of telling you how to dodge by looking at the little thing that hangs from your belt and hearing, and the sound design coming into that. Being able to tell where enemies are based off the sound design was cool. And I think we've seen more games care about sound design in that way because of Hellblade. I really like the idea of no HUD and having it to where all combat damage is just you kill the enemy. You see how damaged they are based off of how deformed their skin is, which is something that Dead Space brought into the remake as well, where you can kind of see how close you are to killing your necromorph based on how fucked up they look. And I like that you knew how close to dying you were because of how red the screen was getting around you and hearing like the sound coming in, which is also something we've seen games do before. That's not completely unique, but we've seen more games do from a cinematic standpoint. I thought the puzzles were good enough. The story was interesting and doing something very odd. And so all that together, I was kind of like, this is cool. I like this. This is something that's worth celebrating. And it seems weird that a lot of it sounds to have. I've not played it, so I don't want to speak from a big standpoint. It does seem weird that people who enjoyed the first one are like, yeah, the combat's worse in this. You have less combat. You have less control in the combat. The puzzles are a lot more simple and don't really require much from you. And there's a lot more cutscenes. None of these things are inherently in and of themselves a problem. But when you look at the type of game Hellblade 2 is, I can see why this isn't clicking with some people and hyper clicking with other people, because there are people that just really like a game that's super on rails and does everything for you and brings you along on a journey without requiring you to do much. It's kind of a weird in between. So I'm excited for it. But going to the question of the security of the studio, this game seems to take a long time to make, but I don't know how much it costs them to make. I don't know that I really have enough information to truly point out whether or not I think that this studio is going to survive after this, or if this is anything of worry. But that also goes back to what we talked about last week. I don't know how to quantify success for a game like this, because Game Pass muddies those waters in a way that the average consumer just really can't know.
Yeah. Well, again, look, I'm not the first to say this, but Microsoft's strategy with who they close and who they don't close doesn't make sense. You could tell me that Hellblade got 10s across the board and Ninja Theory closed tomorrow. And the reason could be, they just finished their game and they're not going to make any money for the next 5 to 7 years. So they're done. That seems to, that from what I understand, that was the biggest reason behind
Tango,
yeah. They had just launched their game. They were pitching their new one. It would have taken 5 more years to make any money from them. So they're the easiest to cut. They're just red in your ledger for 5 years. So I don't know. There's no measure of success that I can gauge here, because if Microsoft was running on a disciplinary basis, 343 would be dead. And 343 would probably have been dead after they launched one of the worst launches of all time with Master Chief Collection. So who knows what you can think here now.
Oh, man, I think something we'll probably never know, just because of how the game ended up being made. I've long said that I think the way to go about buying someone like Ninja Theory is to specifically buy them because they have proven that on a shoestring budget and a small team, they can make something that feels decidedly bridging a gap between AA and AAA. Much like I think Banishers did this year. I think Banishers, for being a AA game, often made me be like, damn, this looks really good. And the performances are really good. How are they kind of almost hitting this level that a lot of the most expensive games we've seen be developed hit, and they're doing it on a significantly smaller budget? Don't get me wrong. Did Spider-Man 2 look a lot better than Banishers in reality? Yes. But Banishers, for what I can only assume was like maybe 1/10 of the budget, looks close enough that I have a hard time really knowing if I care. That's how I'll word that. But I think if I were to buy, like if I was Microsoft and I was looking at Ninja Theory, I'd have bought them, not grown them significantly at all, and been like, cool, make another game like Hellblade, do it with the team you have, use the same ideas that you've been using to find ways to make games look like you've spent more time and money on them than you really did. And we'll just keep letting you do that as long as as long as we can make that make sense monetarily enough. And I say that because somehow, some way, and I'm so glad to see it, Media Molecule has not been closed. And that's because they are cheap to operate. They're a very small studio, and they have put out a couple of bangers that people really liked critically, whether or not they've really been that commercially successful in a while. How Ninja Theory, I hope that's what Ninja Theory is. I don't know how much Ninja Theory has or has not grown since they got bought by Microsoft. This game seems to have been treated like it was getting bigger treatment. So it's, I don't think they were at 60 beforehand.
That's what I'm saying. They grew by 60 heads. They were 20.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have given them like 5 more people and been like, you got this.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what you're looking for from Ninja Theory. I mean, it depends on what you're looking for from all your studios. They just shut down the one studio that was going to make them small games, or at least had made a small game. So I don't know. I don't know what the strategy is. Maybe there's a lot of people who think Ninja Theory could be Microsoft's Naughty Dog. So maybe they need the investment for that.
Dude, but here's the thing. I would agree with you. I've been feeling confused about Ninja Theory since they announced that Hellblade 2 is going to be a $50 game. I don't think that's inherently bad. But since I didn't know how much they had or had not grown and I hadn't bothered looking into it, if you're going to grow them, the sequel to your game does not need to be a 5-hour, basically the same game that you had. and maybe too simplified because you were trying to go towards the lowest common denominator. I think I'd agree with you if they bought Ninja Theory and they said, cool, this next Hellblade that you're making is going to be a 15-hour, bigger, almost like a 2018 God of War style glow up in terms of scale and scope. And we're going to really pump y'all up and give you all this stuff to make a great big AAA game. Cool. That's the only way that they become Microsoft's Naughty Dog.
Agreed.
If you want them to just be the small studio who puts out surprisingly great looking games at a really small budget, if you want them to basically be your internal AA studio that looks like they're putting out AAA stuff, then, or maybe I'd even go as far as say the way they bought them was an indie level studio making AAA, close to AAA quality stuff. Why would you not just keep them that and be like, that's who they are for us?
DMC. I don't know if I would say that's not AAA level.
Yeah, but by the time that they made Hellblade, they were down to really small studio numbers.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's not, they have AAA
and they were an independent studio at that point, of course, but they had AAA development numbers
right
prior to that. Yeah, I agree. So I don't know. You look at something like that, and it feels weird to not keep them in that lane because that was their value. What value did you see in buying them? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's pretty weird. That's all I'll say. So yeah, there goes that. If they stick around, I'll be curious to see, but we don't know how much Microsoft has left in swinging their scythe around. So it's a little difficult to say. All right, let's see. We kind of talked about this, so we'll save these other two questions for after we talk about a little bit more. I think the next thing we'll talk about real quickly is the PlayStation Plus games for May. For PS Plus Extra and Premium. So pretty good list here. PlayStation still keeps leveraging their relationship with Rockstar to get big games on the service. So for this month, we have Red Dead Redemption 2 joining the list. We have Deceive Inc. on PS5. We have The Sims 4 City Living expansion hitting. Crime Boss Rockay City. One of the weirdest games that I'm not going to lie, I do have a morbid curiosity to play because I just... All right.
So, great. I had a morbid curiosity to play it. I played it for about 5 minutes and was turned off.
Immediately?
Instantly.
I remember this conversation.
No, it was today. So, there...
For some reason, I thought you had bought it, but I think you were on the.
I was on the fence. Yeah, I'm glad I did now. But yeah, no, I played it. It sells you this game. Like, what do you think this game is?
See, that's the hard thing. With what they showed, I have no clue. I could see it being like a small scale weird game that's almost like a celebrity ridden version of Hotline Miami. But you could also tell me that this was like Grand Theft Auto meets Saints Row, but with all these big guys, and I would have believed it just the same.
So what kind of game do you think it is? Like if you had to guess.
Third person sandbox?
Single player game?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a multiplayer game.
With Danny Trejo?
With single player elements.
And Danny Glover?
Yeah, and Vanilla Ice, and I think Michael Mann? Is that his name?
Is Chuck Norris in this?
Yes.
So I thought. And Michael Mann. The dude who plays Yondu? He's in this, isn't he?
Mickey Rourke is in it, yeah.
Good Lord.
It was confusing to me because I saw this game and I thought I was getting like an 80s action movie single player game. Instead, it's a 3v3 heist game. And I tried to play the single player, and the game implies that you're playing as, I think it's Michael Madsen is the main character. I think that's the guy's name. You're playing as him. But instead, when I loaded into the game, I was doing a single player 3v3 heist with some dude named Paolo.
So here, the description says fast. In the solo roguelike campaign, You'll employ strategy and firepower to carry out cunning heists and claim turf from rival gang leaders, all while trying to evade capture by the tenacious Sheriff Norris. They didn't even change his name.
Nope.
Okay. I don't know, man. Let's keep going. There's the Settlers, New Allies hitting from PS4. Stranded, Alien Dawn, which is on PS4 and PS5. We have Cat Quest joining the ranks, which is cool. Both 1 and 2 PS4 games. We have the Lego Movie video game, or the Lego Movie 2 video game, technically. Watch Dogs on PS4 joining. And then in the premium thing, we have 2 Extreme, which is a snowboarding game. G-Police. Hitting PS4 and PS5. And we have Worms Pinball rounding out that list. It's an eclectic mix of games. And one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. I don't know why a roguelike game got all these big famous actors, but I hope that they didn't pay too much money for that, because I don't know hold on, who's the publisher for Rockay City? Because I feel like somebody got duped. That's all I'll say. Some dude in whoever it was that funded this game, whoever the big publisher or somebody was, got duped. 505 Games was the publisher.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't know.
I'm clearly not talking about the quality of the game. I haven't played. But to your point, Chris, the marketing did not sell what Chris apparently got.
No.
I would have never guessed that based off what they were showing.
Yeah, it looked like a GTA game.
It did, but like I said, I could also see it being like a kind of oddly star-studded 3D, maybe 2.5D rendition of like Hotline Miami, where it's cool just too. You running through environments and just capping and shooting the fuck out of people. Actually, that sounds cooler than what the game is.
Yeah, I mean, Hotline Miami is a great game, so I would have loved that.
Man, that's wild. All right. So that's that. And then I think the last thing we're going to talk about before we get into some of the questions, the remaining questions we have, is IGN Entertainment acquires Eurogamer, GI, so Game Informer, VG247, Rock, Paper, Shotgun, and more. So this is a article directly from IGN themselves. It says IGN Entertainment has acquired the Gamer Network family of digital brands for an undisclosed sum. Gamer Network's publications include GamesIndustry.biz, Eurogamer, Rock Paper Shotgun, VG247, and Dicebreaker. The business also holds shares in Outside Xbox, Digital Foundry, and Hookshot, which operates Nintendo Life, Push Square, Pure Xbox, and Time Extension. IGN Entertainment is a division of Ziff Davis that includes IGN, Map Genie, How Long to Beat, and Humble Bundle. It has acquired the brands from PAX and New York Comic Con organizer ReedPop, which initially bought the Gamer Network business in 2018. Not included in the sale are the UK-based events EGX or MCM or the digital brand Popverse. That is the entire thing. Look, this is not necessarily craziest news and something we're going to talk about a bunch. It is interesting that consolidation, it's just good proof that as any industry continues to grow, consolidation is an inevitability that just eventually happens. And much like Chris and I came to the conclusion of, as we were talking about back and forth about the worries and the goods and the bads of all this consolidation, buying up, closing, all these things, inevitably new gaming news sites are going to pop up from people, some of which are probably going to be affected by the probably massive slew of layoffs that are going to come from this. And they'll be back out there. They'll be independent. They'll be the people that you feel like maybe you can trust more than IGN, and the cycle begins anew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I said to you that there wasn't much to say, because the reality is it's funny because you were talking about consolidation as industries grow, and I feel like this is an example of an industry dying and consolidating itself in like one force. You know, it kind of feels like the game. This is a signal of like, okay, well, we're all coming together, and hopefully, you know, it's like the end of Endgame where all of us start coming out of portals, and IGN is boosted by GamesIndustry.biz and all this kind of stuff, but I think, like I said to you, I think this was IGN just buying a bunch of talent with no intention of using any of these brand names. Because, I mean, these brand names aren't worth very much. Eurogamer already died, didn't it? Like I
didn't
feel
think
like
Eurogamer did, but
I'm pretty sure it died and came back, and now it's being bought by IGN. So,
I genuinely don't know, but that goes to show you, I don't really follow most of these publications in any real. I think Push Square is probably the only one I interact with sometimes.
Yeah,
I don't. The rest of this, I don't. Digital Foundry, I quite like Digital Foundry, but they're not fully owned. They just have shares.
Yeah, I think. I don't think it's crazy to say that for me, the relevancy of IGN and those websites went away when Colin, Greg, Nick, and Tim left IGN. I feel like once that all happened, that site, I stopped listening to those podcasts. I stopped going to them for reviews as much. And then you get the people on YouTube start blowing up where, Skill Up and ACG. So them leaving was kind of the time where it really signaled the end for all of these sites. So I think this is just the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these sites did get hit when YouTube became so viable, and talent that they weren't necessarily actually giving their due were able to just be like, fuck you, I can make way more money on my own, and then they just did it. And so I agree with you in the sense of consolidation happens in industries big and small, and it happens whether industries are growing or dying. I think you're really right that for the most part, this is an industry that is probably dying, or at least is massively having to shake up. And I say this across the board because a lot of industries that have been solely dependent on ad income have had to completely shake things up as YouTube and all these other places have started to pull people away. Because if everybody goes to YouTube to do all these things or to a Patreon or whatever, then less people are visiting these sites, and ads from non-YouTube based revenue is getting hit. So you'll see some of these things end up like, IGN has their own YouTube account so that they can make up the ad revenue that they're losing from their own site from people who are at least willing to go to YouTube and get it all from there. So it's a complicated thing, but I think I might be wrong, but I like to think a lot of people who end up really enjoying podcasts tend to be a little more disconnected from the big media outlets like this. And so I think most of the people who listen to this probably aren't going to feel massively disappointed or anything by this. The biggest thing I can see is that a couple of these small ones, if they get hit, like a Push Square, like a Pure Xbox or whatever, I think Digital Foundry might upset some people. I like Digital Foundry, so if it really did get hit in this, that'd be unfortunate. But it doesn't feel... I don't interact with this as much as I interact with like Bethesda games. So I have much more of a reaction to Bethesda getting bought out by Xbox because it had a much more realistic impact on my day-to-day life than this does. And, what that says, I have a very weird, as we talked about at the beginning of this episode, I have a weird relationship with media. And so I think looking at my relationship with it as any kind of sign of anything is clearly pointless. I just hope that you see some kind of value in me telling you the very weird way in which I consume media, which I am very aware is weird and not really with the times. So do what you will with this, but more than anything, it was funny that seeing a lot of the games that did end up getting reviews today, like Hellblade 2 and like Super Mario or Paper Mario, seeing how many of the publications that gave it review scores just got bought by IGN, it was kind of funny. So... all right, Chris, we got a couple more things we're going to do here. We're going to hop over and finish a couple questions. You cool with that?
Hit me.
All right. We got one from Pork Chops. Longtime listener. He says, not long ago, I finally got the Helldivers 2 Platinum. The final trophy needed was, quote, performance-assisted reload. Probably the easiest trophy to get in comparison to others. What are some of the games that you've gotten the Platinum for where your last trophy was one of the easiest ones to achieve? Bonus points if the other trophies in the game are very difficult. I'm going to go out and go ahead and give you the answer. Pretty much every game I play. The last trophy I get is one of the easiest trophies to get in the entire game. And it just turns out that because of my refusal to look at trophy guides, I start looking at trophy guides really late in the game, and it almost always ends up being that one of the simplest things that I just didn't interact with or do is the last thing I get.
Yeah, I don't have that problem.
It's not a problem. It's an experience, you know?
I don't know. I feel like for me it would be a little deflating for the last trophy to be the easiest trophy. You know, for me it's like finally popping the skills trophy in Sekiro and the platinum popping immediately was a better feeling than it would have been if I'd saved like go to the secret boss dungeon and walk in and say hello to the monkey. You know, like if that had been my last trophy, it would have been way less satisfying. So for me, like I knock out. We've talked about it ad nauseum on the show, but I know the last trophy I'm going to get before I start playing the game, so it doesn't really.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Translate.
I don't know the last trophy I get until I just dynamically choose based on what I'm doing in the game. So what I'm doing is Stellar Blade right now. I still haven't looked at the trophy guide. All I've done is at least looked at the trophy list and went through and hit reveal on all of them. Because I'm like, you can't spoil anything for me now. So I just open the trophy list, hit square on each of them. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what this is. I think I know what this is. Oh, it turns out I got to do a lot more fishing than I initially thought. It's simple stuff like that. And ironically, I wouldn't be surprised if the last trophy I get in Stellar Blade is getting 20 different types of fish.
Well, yeah, fishing mini games are always lame.
Here's the weird thing, too, though. The thing of getting the simple trophy last happens to me a lot. But every now and then, I also have the problem of the last trophy being something that on paper sounds easy, but in practice is way more difficult. And you're like, why the fuck is this so difficult? One of my go-to trophies in this is how fucking hard it is to get all the mountable pets or whatever the fuck they're called in Terraria. It was the last trophy I got, and it was so fucking difficult to do because you don't, it sounds easy until you actually start realizing what you've got to do for some of these and how rare they are from a drops perspective. And not only are they rare from a drops perspective, they might be rare from a what you even have to fight them. There's one for a rainbow slime, and rainbow slimes are incredibly rare to even spawn. And then it's a super rare drop. So it's like, what the fuck? And that was the whole reason. Saul doesn't have the Terraria Platinum because when him and I were playing it, we were actually playing it together. And I had played hundreds of hours before him. And he hopped off. And for some reason, he wasn't playing when I killed the rainbow slime. And I think there was a trophy for killing all the slime types. And he just could never get it because every time he'd hop on and we'd try and search out a rainbow slime, we never saw one. So he was just like, fuck it, I don't care anymore. And it was just a really funny way to end up interacting with the game. So, interact with games however you see fit. But if you interact with the trophy list after you're playing the game or have beat the game, expect to have a few moments you're like, I probably could have been doing this a lot earlier on and would have saved myself a little bit of stress and trouble. But, it's part of the experience, part of the ride for me. So, Chris, you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, I didn't say anything. I was letting you talk.
Oh, you're good. I just, in case you're wanting to talk, I didn't know if you knew you were muted.
But yeah, no, I don't know, man. Your way I feel like you lose so many trophies you have, and that makes me laugh. It's like, if I just known to scan this fucking thing in Horizon by checking the trophy guide, I wouldn't have complained about it on the show.
I still think my complaint is completely viable. Valid point.
Yeah, I don't think they should have changed that shit. They should have left it as is.
But they did, Chris. They did. And therefore, I am retroactively correct.
That's because of Sweet Baby Inc. and DEI.
Damn you, DEI!
God damn it.
What was the diversity they were accounting for? Dumbasses like me?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, good to know. That's who they were including. That was the inclusivity part.
The one thing I know about Horizon Forbidden West is that you're supposed to scan every enemy you see. That's like the one thing the game managed to teach me.
Yeah, and what was really funny,
boss, people are like, I'm not going to scan this last boss.
It's also the only thing in the game. I actually tell you, Chris, part of the reason this got everybody is anybody who played Horizon 1. Horizon 1 did the JRPG style, well, most JRPG style, where when you beat the game, and you get your save cleared thing, it puts you back before the final boss fight, but with a cleared save. And I think myself and a lot of people included kind of thought that's what this game's going to do because that's what the other one did. And then it didn't. It just doesn't. And so to fight the last boss again, guess what you've got to do? Beat the entire fucking game again. So part of it is setting expectation. That's the problem.
Just check a trophy guide.
One day, Chris, maybe.
You don't have to follow the trophy guide.
We got one more question here.
There's a roadmap. There's a roadmap for a reason. Let's check the roadmap.
You know what sucks, though, Saul? You know, hey, there you go. You know what sucks, Chris? Sometimes I might be willing to do that, and it's a game that no one's gotten a platinum for yet, and no one's trophy got it, and I'm playing it day one, moment one, and it doesn't matter because I'm going to start playing this game. And then in 2 weeks, when I'm past the point of it mattering, someone's going to post trophy guide and say, warning, make sure from the start of the game you do this. I'm like, guess what? It's too fucking late. That's also where being a patient gamer can help you because a lot of the time, Chris, you play games a little bit after. And so I think you end up having the benefit of there's probably almost always a trophy guide somewhere.
Ironically, a lot of the games I really want the trophies in don't have trophy guides. Like I was playing Planet Zoo and it doesn't have a trophy guide. And I'm like, this would be a cool one, but I don't know what I need to do. Maybe that's a me problem. I could probably just figure it out by reading the trophies, but.
Yeah, who knows? All right, we got one more question here from Stingray X. I'm pretty sure one more. I guess I need to check Twitter on the off chance. But yeah, we got one more question from Stingray X, one of our patrons, who went over to patreon.com/Nartech and gave us a little as $1 per month to support the show, which you can do too. And we are so thankful for those of you who do. He asked, what's the next gaming peripheral you wish to see from PlayStation? What has been your favorite so far? So just to open that up for anybody, that includes things like the PlayStation Portal, of course, the PlayStation VR 2 to a degree, VR 1 to a degree, iToy, PlayStation Move, all those different things. So, Chris, what has been your favorite peripheral, if any?
I mean, is the Vita a peripheral?
No. But also kind of. It's a dedicated system with a peripheral functionality.
I'm just going to go with the Vita so that I don't have to sound like a wet blanket and say nothing. So I'm going to go with the Vita because I don't know. I guess the only answer I could come up with is like, I wish Guitar Hero existed more regularly. And that's not necessarily a PlayStation thing, but at the same time, like, I don't think I would buy Guitar Hero, at least not for myself, but I would buy it to have it. And that's one of the frustrating things with it now is like, if I wanted to buy a Guitar Hero set, I'm spending like $600 and I don't even know if it works. It's coming from some dude in Oklahoma who had it in his garage. So
yeah. And they're usually very highly priced. I remember when I went and found 2 PlayStation 3 Rock Band guitars with the dongle for like $27 a piece at our local game store when I'd been looking for months. I just happened to not go for about a month, and I walked in and I said, no fucking way. I said, y'all have the dongles? He goes, yeah. And, you know, if I were to try and look for that, the dongle alone on eBay is like $35. I could have bought those controllers, sold the dongle only, and made money. But yeah, I'm with you. That kind of stuff is pretty wild. From an actual PlayStation peripheral thing, I would honestly say the one I think has been my real favorite so far is probably PSVR 2 when it was working correctly for me. I think that I had the highest of highs with that. But unfortunately, I've also had the lowest of lows since it's been one of the few things from PlayStation I bought that just is having an issue. And unfortunately, you can't buy those controllers by themselves yet, probably because the device hasn't been successful enough. And therefore, I'm stuck in a spot where I need to call PlayStation or pay someone to take this thing apart or do something. But it's just not easy. At this point, I'd spend $60 more for another controller just to get it done so I didn't have to wait or ship off something or whatever. But if I move away from that, because I think PSVR 2 is kind of weird because they are peripherals, but they're almost like mini consoles. And so I'm going to go with PlayStation Move because it was less of a platform than PSVR 2, but I quite enjoyed it. I really liked a lot of the games that they were doing for it. I loved playing Killzone 3 with the sharpshooter gun. I loved playing a game I bring up often on here, Sorcery, which was a PlayStation Move exclusive game. It was super fun. The PlayStation Move Sports, whatever they were called, Sports Championship. Those games were awesome. Nothing like playing some table tennis and hitting at the right angle and watching the ping pong turn on fire while you're going. Playing the Gladiator minigame, super fun. So, I mean, I spent hours and hours and hours on the pack-in game, and that's when you know you got a good pack-in game. Like, you really knocked it out of the park. It's like everybody who played, what was it? What was the Wii one that was like that? Was it Wii Sports that was a pack-in or something like that?
Zelda
or Wii Resort or some shit like that?
Oh, yeah, Wii Sports.
Anyway, yeah, I know a lot of people love those. And as weird as it is, they're super fun. They just are. So, yeah, in terms of one that I never actually got to experience, because I want to say it just never came out outside of Japan, but I love it on the Dreamcast. I wish I would have gotten to fuck around with the Pocket Station, which was basically, exclusively Japan. It was PlayStation's weird take on the VMU from the Dreamcast. And anyone who never played a Dreamcast or doesn't know, the VMU is like the virtual memory unit. And the idea is it's a memory card that you plug in and it's got a screen on it. And the front of the controller for the Dreamcast, look it up if you have it, has got a square cut out so that when the memory card's inserted, you can see things on the screen. And so when you're playing like Sonic Adventure 2, whatever character you're playing as, their face is drawn in on that screen, which is just a cool little fun detail. But then, a game like Sonic Adventure 2, you could take these things from in-game called chows, and you can go to your chow garden, and you could upload your chow that you're messing with onto your VMU, turn the system off, pull your VMU out. It has its own battery. You can turn it on, and then basically Tamagotchi interact with this fucking chow on the go from this little handheld memory card. And I'm going to be honest, few things in gaming have been as cool as that. I don't know if it was a time and place thing, how old I was, it was hitting at the right moment, but I remember thinking that was the most inventive and weird idea. And that was 90s gaming. 90s gaming was like, we're trying fucking anything. And that's one of the coolest things. And I still would love, there's no need for memory cards today, but I would love to see someone ballsy enough to bring something like that back.
I mean, honestly, I'm surprised nobody really combined the Pokemon Go not wearable, but like active gaming with real gaming, you know?
Well, what do you mean? Because
like, think about it with Animal Crossing. Obviously, pandemic notwithstanding, but if you could have taken one of your Animal Crossing villagers, put them in a ball, and gone on a walk, and then you come back with like, oh, you found 80 bells and 16 starfish and 47 apples, you know?
See, this is ahead of the time kind of thing, because what you're talking about 100% existed with a pedometer that came with fucking Pokemon.
Yeah, Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Heart Gold, Soul Silver. You
Yeah,
just
but they
put
don't
it
do it
on,
anymore.
upload your Pokemon. Yeah, why the fuck not?
It doesn't make sense.
Even just, hey, send your Pokemon from the game to your phone app. And as you walk around with your phone, however many steps you take would give you an award or some experience or
Right.
something. You train your Eevees by walking around. You can hyper train your yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be sick.
It's crazy that nobody does that, because it would be awesome.
Yeah. Apparently, I heard a pop not long ago. It might even be in this recording, and apparently, it seems like it was gunshots.
Oh.
And the cops are around my house looking for people with guns, so that's fun.
I hope everyone's okay.
Me too. One of my neighbors across the street says they think it came from the behind the house that's directly to the right of me. So that's fun. All that to be said, there's one more ace of the question. So, Chris, you were talking about really enjoying the Portal. So is that not counting towards you? I would have thought that meant your go-to answer, even if it was just recency bias, or have you kind of cooled on how cool you think the Portal actually is?
No, I think the Portal's great, but it's one of those devices I'm going to find out, because I'm planning on, if she listens, no, you didn't, but I'm planning on taking my girlfriend on a weekend trip for her birthday. And I'm going to bring the Portal and just see like, hey, she's passing out. I'm going to sit on the couch and play a game. Mostly strictly for the curiosity to see how it works in that setting. Because right now what it ends up being is I don't feel like sitting at my desk. I'm going to go lay down in bed before I go to sleep. And then I fall asleep playing the Portal. That's what happened last night. I was trying to get the trophy for a sub 20-minute run in Slay the Spire, and I fell asleep. So that run ended up being 9 hours and 30 minutes.
That's pretty good. Yeah, so of course I'm not interactive with the Portal yet. I do have mesh Wi-Fi now, which has been pretty good. And it's a lot better than what I had. So I've debated doing one of the mesh Wi-Fi modules directly beside my PlayStation and then hardwiring my PlayStation into it and seeing how that actually goes, because then you'd only have one actually wireless source of input.
I've noticed when my PS5 is connected via LAN cable, it works much better.
Yeah,
the experience has been actively
to be assumed.
Not on it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yeah, and that's why it's quite a pricey piece of equipment to want to try in an environment where I know my system's not hardwired.
Right,
and I could, but it'd be a lot of work to get there.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing for me. Like on this trip, I'm not bringing my PS5, obviously, so it'll be hardwired at the house, and we'll see how it works. So.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see too. So I think part of what it is for you right now is that you don't know if you've actually experienced the Portal at its best or worst to actively want to comment.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what I think it is, which is I'm not sitting in front of the TV because someone's watching a movie or I decided to be upstairs. It's not hey, I'm going to work. I'm going to tuck it in my pocket and be able to play every once in a while. That's not how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what kind of peripheral would you want to see next? It sounds kind of dumb saying this, but since Sony has basically otherwise divested themselves from the handheld market for this long, I'm kind of like Chris in saying the Vita, in that what I really want to see from them is a dedicated handheld that can play PS4 games dedicated on it, which would be great for catching up on some of the indie games that I didn't get a chance to play. And then also have Portal's functionality of basically being able to be a screen for your PS5. I think, and I know it's not going to happen. I would actually like them to be ballsy enough to make that and then still make dedicated games for it. I don't think that would happen. And I think it's fair to say that they're probably not going to keep making cross-gen games just so that every game can still run on this dedicated handheld that can play PS4 games, even though that would be an interesting use case for why you're actually doing cross-gen games. So, yeah, I don't have an immediate. I do want to see them continue with VR, but I don't know that enough other people do, and I don't know if they actually will, but I like to imagine Sony won't completely divest themselves, because I think Sony kind of is looking right now and being like, we could have stayed in the handheld market. And now if they're trying to come back into this weirdly, blooming market, they're on the back foot instead of being on the front foot like they were.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't have an immediate. I think gaming is getting so weird, and the need for peripherals is so weird because you have a phone. So a lot of the things can just be what Sony's already been messing with. Send something to your phone. Do the shit with your phone. Connect your game with your phone. It's just,
I don't know. I hope... I would love to see a Steam Deck-esque device from Sony. Until then...
That's essentially what I'm asking for, is a PS4 powered.
And that's the thing. If Ghost of Tsushima can run on the Steam Deck, like, for me, I would be totally okay if they released a thing that was like, hey, you can download and play every PS4 game you have. Select PS5 games like Animal Well could probably run on
something
there.
that's not real demanding.
Dave the Diver, that kind of stuff. Or you can cloud stream PS5, PS6, PS5 Pro games. And have that experience. I think that would be the perfect thing.
All right. Well, that's the last question for the episode. So let's round this thing out. Chris, I know that you mentioned that you have a Velvet's Corner. Does that mean it's time to play the theme song?
I think so.
All right. Let's do this.
Velvet's Corner.
All right, Chris, let's hear it. What you got?
All right. So it's not games related. I want to put that out there. But I got triggered because The state of Indiana has declared that a taco is a sandwich.
Oh no! Okay.
Now this has pissed me off for a multitude of reasons, which is why after I explain, we're going to go to the base question. Okay, this has triggered me because I do not believe that a hot dog is a sandwich. I believe that a hot dog is a taco. Therefore, the state of Indiana has caused me great distress.
You're going to sue them? For emotional distress?
If I lived there, I would secede. Okay?
We got to get this government out of here, guys.
So
First of all, I love the thought process because, like, I'm not questioning your story. I don't live in Indiana, but I love the thought process that the entire state of Indiana at a government level was like, guys, we have a really important thing on the docket today. We got to classify tacos. What are they? Are they hot dogs or sandwiches? And then I just love the idea that there was a heated debate wasting the taxpayers' money about whether they should classify a taco as a sandwich or not.
May 17th,
that
2024.
Sounds like the exact dumb shit that taxpayer money would be used on.
Yep.
And somehow that's the worst and best thing to me simultaneously.
And you know what? The problem is we got this answer because of capitalism. Okay. So on May 17th, 2024, an Indiana judge opens the door for a new eatery, finding tacos and burritos are Mexican-style sandwiches.
No fucking way.
No. It's fucking wrong.
Okay, so hold on then. What the fuck is a wrap?
Right. Is a wrap just not a burrito?
But a wrap doesn't have to be inherently Mexican.
No.
You know what I mean? It doesn't have to brush against Mexican style anything. So how the fuck do you pull this into a burrito being a Mexican style?
Okay.
A burrito is a Mexican style hot pocket. That's what it is.
An Indiana judge has cleared the way for a restaurateur was in a legal battle. Martin Quintana, 53, has been trying for about 3 years to open his second The Famous Taco location in Fort Wayne. But the initial written commitment for the development at a plaza he owns limits the business to a sandwich bar style restaurant whose primary business is to sell made to order or Subway style sandwiches. So I don't know what the great Martin Quintana has on this judge, but
he's got dirt.
Dude, if you went to me, okay, this is the thing, right? And this is how I feel about pineapple on pizza, and this is how I feel about margarita pizza, okay? All three of these things are good. But if you brought margarita or pineapple, Hawaiian pizza to a party and told me there would be pizza there, and that was all you brought, you've lied to me. And if I took you to Moe's,
I understand what you mean is what's interesting. Like I completely understand what you're saying.
It's like a buffalo chicken pizza is not a pizza. It is not.
See, I agree, and you're getting to a point of something I said the other day when my daughter and I were talking about. Like when someone says, "Hey, we're doing pizza at a group event gathering," your understanding is that there's probably going to be a cheese, a pepperoni, maybe a meat lovers.
Yeah,
like that's because. And I told her, like, it's. People are like all the time, like, pepperoni is your favorite pizza. I'm like, it's a fucking classic for a reason. Pepperoni pizza is just good. I'm not saying I don't like other pizzas. I do. But pepperoni always hits. It's always good. And it is the baseline for what you expect from a pizza.
Exactly. Like, when you tell me, hey, come over, I ordered a pizza, right? You don't order calzones and go, well, it's an Italian style pizza. Like...
I think all pizzas are Italian-style pizzas, just to throw that out there.
Sure. Okay, but
I get what you mean.
A plate of nachos, right? It's a bunch of triangles with shit on them. Is that a pizza?
This is a Mexican-style pizza.
Right. Every chip is a slice.
Okay, look, I want to go towards something real quick. Clearly, I made the joke that a burrito is a Mexican-style Hot Pocket, which is basically goes into a deeper thing, because a Hot Pocket is just a beef Wellington.
No, a Hot Pocket is a calzone.
Well, yes. Well, it depends on which one you get, because like not all calzone. Like, what if you get a ham and cheese one? That's not necessarily a calzone. Calzone's usually inspired by ingredients that are more Italian.
Sure, but I could make you a
process.
ham and cheese calzone pretty easily.
You absolutely could.
It would be fucking
Absolutely
good. It would be good.
I'll give you my point. But what I'm getting at is that a calzone is just a fucking beef Wellington.
Sure. Well, no,
it's a Wellington. You know, it falls into that idea of a Wellington. You just argued against yourself. It's pizza ingredients.
Well, it's in the same classification.
Look, if we're going off of what a Wellington is, right? A Wellington is just meat and cheese wrapped in a completely sealed surrounding of bread.
Mushrooms.
Is that not what a fucking burrito is? Is that not what a hot pocket is? Is that not what a calzone is? It's not all calzones, or rather, not all beef Wellingtons are calzones, but all calzones are not all Wellingtons are calzones, but all calzones are Wellingtons.
Yeah, I can see that argument, but again, base level. If you tell me we're going out for Wellingtons and you don't take me to Gordon Ramsay's, you take me to fucking Little Mike's pizza joint, I'm be like, dude, I'm okay with what we're doing, but you've drastically missold the evening. If you tell me we're going out for beef Wellingtons, like, I'm coming to your house in like a button-up shirt. And if you take me to Little Marco's Pizzeria, I'm going to punch you in the dick.
That's also fair. I was just getting into the fact of clarifying that more than anything, a lot of this stuff is more of a Wellington than anything if we go off of old classifications of things. But look, let's get back to the matter at hand here. I agree with you, and you're positing that a hot dog is not a sandwich.
It's not.
And I've had this conversation with other people. They're like, it's a sandwich. It's between two pieces of bread. I'm like, it's one piece of bread with a fucking slit in it.
Exactly.
And then they try and get technical, and they go, okay, well, if I get a baguette, and I cut the baguette, but I don't go all the way through, and then I fill it with shit, and then I close it. Is it a sandwich? I'm like, technically no, but you're just being a dick.
It's a hot dog.
Yeah, you just made a hot dog, but you're just being a dick. It's a sandwich that you refuse to commit to. That's what it is.
It's like people who you'll have this conversation, and they'll go, well, what if the hot dog bun breaks? Then it's two pieces of bread. And I'm like, no, you just don't have any control of your fucking muscles, you asshole.
Yeah, it's true.
I squeezed the bread too hard and now it broke.
That's like saying that your car becomes a bicycle because you took two wheels off of it.
Right, exactly. It becomes inoperable. It doesn't become a bicycle. You fucking idiot. Come on, Jerry. Put your tires back on your bike.
So, yeah, it's a dumb thing all the way around, but look, I'm firmly with you, Chris. I don't know if we needed to make like a hashtag thing that we can bring to Twitter and just, speaking of which, I thought it was so funny that Elon Musk the other day was like, do you call it Twitter or X? And everybody in the replies was like, fucking Twitter, obviously, you dumbass.
Clearly Twitter. I don't know, man. I've had such a problem with this debate.
I don't even dislike Elon. I just think it's funny that he just refuses to accept that everybody's going to call it Twitter. But yeah,
he needs to know this was a bad decision. I've had this debate. Like cereal is just cold soup.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't even think that's a controversial one, but I've had fights about this. And like pizza, I've always said pizza is just a cracker.
Here's the thing that's getting to me though. Like, I get all the things you're saying, but here's the bigger problem I have. I can't remember what the bread is called. It's like a baked piece of bread that's got like a bunch of. It's not powdered sugar, but it's got like a powdery outside to it. Is it like a torta, something like that?
I think so. I think I know what you're talking about.
I think you do. You cut one of those and you put some in. I think that classifies as a Mexican style sandwich,
like a bread bowl kind of thing.
Well, no, like you just take it, you slice it in half, and like I've had, is it a consola or is that what is that what they're called? I can't think of the actual wording of the thing that it is.
I'm not sure.
But it's like, is it concha? Concha, Conchas. It's Mexican sweetbread. Cut it in half. It becomes a bun. I've had a burger on it. It was delicious.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Sounds great.
And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, that's a sandwich. And if you want to say that that's Mexican style because of what's in, cool, that totally works.
The biggest wrinkle.
So why are you going towards tacos and burritos being Mexican style sandwiches when there's already things that go towards making a Mexican style sandwich?
Well, that's what pisses me off about this entire story. Is this judge is clearly in Martin Quintana's pocket and has now set a precedent for this debate, which is entirely based in corruption.
I'm with you. And now we're living in a future where more things might get miscategorized because of this.
Like my
precedent.
kid, here's the thing. This is what pisses me off. Okay. What I came to my father and we had a conversation about is a hot dog a sandwich. And now I'm going to have to deal with the fucking reality that my child will one day come up to me and go, hey, dad, is a taco a sandwich? I'm going to have to smack that little motherfucker upside the face and say, no, a taco is a hot dog.
Which one came first, hot dogs or tacos? Because what I agree with you.
Tacos came first.
The only thing I would have thought tacos came first, and all I'm saying is a hot dog is a taco, not the inverse. They may be shared, but whichever one comes first gets the credit. That's all I'm saying. Sure.
But if a hot dog is a taco is a hot dog.
I mean, yes, it's just I want to give credit to the one that it's due.
But again,
that's all.
I agree with you. The problem here still stands. If I tell you you're going for burritos and we go to Subway, you're not happy. And if I tell you that we're going for Subway and we go to Moe's, you're not happy.
You're absolutely right. And look, this goes into the discussion of what is the real value of words, if not to inform the other person of what you're trying to get across. And to your point, say what you want. My argument in that courtroom, if this was a thing, would be exactly what you're saying. If these words are to have any real value, that value has to be decisive and able to be recognized in day-to-day life. And in day-to-day life, if you told somebody, bro, let's go get some sandwiches, and you took them to a taco joint, they would be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
That's the reality. And if you went, bro, let's go get some tacos, and then you pulled up to a Subway, they would be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
Does Subway sell tacos now?
Exactly.
He's like, no, bro, tacos are just sandwiches.
Here's the real kicker to the question. Is a burger a sandwich?
Look, I love burgers. I do think a burger's a sandwich.
I think it has to be classified as a sandwich. Yeah. But I think going to a sandwich place versus a burger place would be the most egregious. But it's the most egregious of all of these. No, it's of all of these, I might swing on you if you tell me we're going for burgers and you take me to Subway instead of Five Guys. I could deal with Moe's. I would think you're weird, but I could deal with this is some weird newfangled laws that I don't understand. I guess have been passed, so I guess a burrito is a sandwich.
How dumb that this is something that even needs a law. Which I'm not saying that this is actually. I know it says the judge rules, but what did he just say? Is he a judge? And he was like, I think tacos are sandwiches.
What he basically said was that...
did he go and put this into the Indiana fucking state registry? This is on our...
this is our state declaration. Because think about it. He has set the precedent that a Mexican and burrito place can be put in a Subway. So
to be said that it can be in a place that's only been
that's only supposed to be good for burger or sandwiches can now have burritos. Can it have cheeseburgers? The answer is no. That's the wrinkle here. Because if a Mexican burrito place could go there, then a place that sells burgers should go there, but it won't be able to. It's a different classification. But then where does that stop? Because Chili's sells sandwiches, if you consider a burger a sandwich. True. But the fajita is just stuff we have here. So I feel like this has done more damage to the state of Indiana than anything else possibly could have.
Here's where it gets weird. I think some of the value of what we made, because I do think that you'd classify a burger as a sandwich, but I agree with your point that you'd be like, what the fuck if you went? But here's where I think it might get interesting. Maybe the balance for what a sandwich is needs to be understood, that if it's a sandwich, it's something that can be enjoyed hot or cold as a everyday normal expectation. You go to Subway, they ask if you want your sandwich toasted or not. It is not unusual to get it either way. If you went to a place and got a burger and they're like, do you want your burger cooked or not? You'd be like, what the fuck is your problem? And if you went to a taco place and they were like, what do you want? You're like, I'll take the burrito taco or the burrito. Nice. And you're like, okay. And they're like, do you want that burrito cooked? And you'd be like, are you fucking insane? Of course I want the burrito cooked. And I know that if we're being honest, of course, deli cut ham and turkey and all these things that are cold have been cooked and then refrigerated. Sure. But the point being is, even if it's been cooked, I don't want a cold burger patty. Even if it's been cooked all the way through, I don't want a cold burger patty on my burger. I don't.
No,
and I don't want cold taco meat in my taco. That's just the reality.
Right.
But I can absolutely enjoy a sandwich that's not been heated up. I also enjoy sandwiches that have been heated up.
Sure.
So
definitely.
There's got to be something there. I don't want a cold burrito.
No.
I'm not saying I won't eat a cold burrito, like if I have leftover or something, whatever. But if I'm buying a burrito from a place that sells burritos and they gave me a cold burrito, I'm like, what the fuck is your problem?
Right.
What are you doing?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know, man. I have such I feel like there should be we should have like 5 classifications of food. And then you can expand out from there. But I think we really need to like summon a tribunal of just fat people and have them just organize food. Because think about this,
food pyramid not enough for you?
No, well, the food pyramid is a sham. Okay, but think about the convenience, right? We take like everyone who's been on my 600-pound life, and you put them in a room. And you've got chefs there too. Like, it's not just them. And we're like, okay, all of us are going to spend the next year in this room classifying every food. And then think about how much better our grocery stores are. Because there's like 5 sections, like, oh, my sandwiches are here. And then this will present why a hot dog is not a sandwich. Because you wouldn't go to the sandwich section for a fucking hot dog.
But also, there's not usually a sandwich section in an actual grocery place. You go to the meat section for the meat portion of the sandwich. You go to the bread section for the bread portion of the sandwich. You go to the dairy section for the cheese portion of the sandwich. You get what I'm saying? You go to the produce for if you want any kind of vegetable or fruit on your sandwich. So the sandwich, when you're at a grocery store, yeah, you might be able to find pre-made sandwiches that are intended to be heated up or whatever it be. But realistically, what you're looking at is the classifications of the individual items. And then the sandwich is just you putting all the things together. And I say that because that setup allows you to create new things. And this sounds so weird, but one of the things I appreciate about my daughter is she's a lot like me in that if there's food that you can get together, she's like, I wonder what it tastes like together. And the other day we went to Roadhouse. I got a steak. I got a ribeye.
I'm going to tell my dad.
Bone-in ribeye. And look, here's the thing. I like Longhorn's bread, but sometimes you got to fuck up them Roadhouse rolls. You know what I'm saying?
I want to make sure when you come to my wedding, whenever that is, my dad has just packs of gift cards for you. Get him some shirts. Get him a couple boxes of
You got to pull the swag over. He's got to choose you as a steakhouse of choice. But my wife looked at my daughter with such a weird eye. When I looked and saw it, it didn't even faze me for a bit. I got a steak for me and my daughter to share. And I got my sides and got her a side of applesauce because that's what she wanted. I look over, she's cutting this medium rare steak and she's dipping in applesauce and eating it. And my wife is just like horrified. And I'm like, is it good? and she's like, yeah. And she ate the rest of the steak dipping it in applesauce. And I'm like, fuck yes. Awesome.
You guys sound like psychos. That's scary. That doesn't sound good. But honestly, I don't like applesauce. So,
I love applesauce. Oh fuck, dude, I love applesauce.
It's just.
And here's how you know I love applesauce. Even unsweetened applesauce fucking slaps. It's so good.
That is disgusting. That is the worst thing you've ever said. Unsweetened
she sees me do that all the time. I'll get like a burger from Ironwood and I'll get like a side of mac and cheese and french fries and I'll put the french fries and mac and cheese on the burger. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go.
I like mixing weird
going the whole
stuff.
Thing.
I did a special burger which was it was a jalapeno and pepperoncini like aioli.
Ooh.
And then I did whiskey apples that I aged for like 5 days. And then it was that with cheddar, like pepper jack cheese. So with a beef burger and then just a couple pieces of bacon.
That way you get a little bit of the sweet. You get a little bit of that kind of weird flavor that the whiskey brings in anything that you do there.
Smoky.
You get, that's an interesting idea.
Apples.
You get you get the actual spice of the cheese.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm all really for that. Even if I wouldn't actually end up liking it, I'm all for the experiment behind it. I'm like, this sounds worth trying.
Yeah, no, it was awesome.
Just to see.
I'm doing I want to do like a summery guacamole, and then so I'm thinking of doing guac with orange and pineapple instead of lime.
Oh,
so
okay.
Like juices. Let me.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean, but like, whipping it up instead of using lime, actually pulling in a sweeter rather than a citrusy kind of sour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Because we're doing a pool party.
No, you kind of get a
patio.
You kind of get a best of both worlds from pineapple. That's actually probably a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I think the pineapple and the orange juice will be pretty good in it. I debated having chunks of orange in there with the pico and the avocado, but I don't think it's necessary.
I don't think so. I
think if anything, you would want to make this is why it's great. We can just have a conversation. This is a chill episode because now I think I've got it right. You replace the pico with a mango slaw instead of a pico. So it's
but at that point, do you take too much of the spice out? Because
I think you could still do like mangoes, guacamole, red onion. No, I'm sorry, mangoes, jalapenos, red onions.
Pull the spice in from something else.
Yeah, you're just basically subbing the tomatoes.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
I wonder if it would be good. I might make a batch tomorrow and see if it'll be good at work. Like, all right, guys, this is one of the specials. They were doing like a summer kickoff party. And I get to work in a food truck all day outside of our restaurant. It's cool. I'm going to tie-dye a chef coat so I can look all sick, nasty. It's going to be great. So yeah, I'm doing that. I got to find some hot dog specials. I hate hot dogs, dude. And it has nothing to do with the hot dog as a sandwich thing. But one of the worst work days I've ever had in a restaurant were because of hot dogs. And I actually told them, I'm like, I won't do anything with hot dogs. And they just kind of threw this at me, like, we're doing hot dogs. I'm like, no. Dude, I have to. Okay.
You've betrayed me.
Dude, you don't understand. This is like, I worked at the job I have now. I worked there 5 years ago. And the only time.
When we first met?
No. Did I? Was I? No, I wasn't there. I don't
a little bit before we first met.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it was like right when I first started. I was leaving there. But yeah. Oh yeah, no shit. No, I was. Yep, I remember. Holy shit, we've been friends for a long time. It doesn't feel that way sometimes. But no, so I was really sick. I went into work that day and I told my boss, I'm like, I need to go home. Okay. And he was like, dude, you can go once Yvonne gets here, you're good. Like, whatever. It got so busy because of this hot dog special. I worked until 7 p.m. Dude, we were selling so many hot dogs that Yvonne was one of the cooks, who's a cook for me now. He's a great guy. He would walk over to the fryer because one of the hot dogs was fryer, and he just had emptied bags into his arms. So he's holding his arms like this. Like this whole thing is hot dogs. And he walks over to my fryer and just goes like that. And I had to deal with that for hours. The most sick I've ever been. It's probably the busiest I've ever seen that restaurant in my life. And since then, I've sworn off hot dogs. And on Saturday,
my man's got PTHD, post-traumatic hot dog syndrome.
You could have see, you missed a golden opportunity to end this show with me just so pissed off. Because you could have said PTSD. He's got post-traumatic sandwich disorder.
It's funny. I went towards PTSD to see if I could find a way to make hot dog work with like something S related. But you know what? You got there, Chris.
You could have given me PTSD by saying PTSD.
So here we are. The community steak is clearly a taco a sandwich.
Brett, top 5 soups. Do you have top 5 soups?
Oh, dude. Give me a second because I probably do, but you're going to have to give me a second to actually think. Okay. this is not going to be a definitive where one is actually number one, but my 5 soups I tend to rotate between.
Okay.
It's very specifically Olive Garden's pasta fagioli is so fucking incredible. It is so good. It is one of my absolute favorite soups. I like a French bistro. French onion bistro soup.
Okay.
That is incredible. One of my favorites. It's so savory, and it's just a delight to have like a little piece of bread or a baguette or something you can dip into.
Dude, French onion is fantastic because you can get a French onion burger, and you dip the burger in the French onion. I've had like a burger. It's with Swiss cheese on, I think it's rye or sourdough, and it comes with a little side bowl of French onion. You just dip that shit in there. It's fantastic burger.
Dude, Panera has a surprisingly good French onion soup, and they had last year they had this. It was like chicken, mozzarella, pepperoni, all on a sandwich together with like an aioli on it. It was really good. And I got that and a little cup of French onion. And I was like, fuck, I want to dip this sandwich in there just to see. And it was incredible. It was really good. Like I said, pasta fagioli is that specifically the one from Olive Garden is incredible. French onion is a classic that I absolutely love. I really like chicken and dumplings, which I'm going to classify as a soup. It's one of my absolute favorites. I am quite stricken by loaded baked potatoes. Soup is so good. And it's weird because I don't even usually like loaded baked potatoes because I don't like sour cream, but I fucking love it. I
don't like baked potatoes because it's the worst way to eat a potato.
Oh, see, here's another thing that we didn't even get to for Roadhouse. The other difference that I like about Roadhouse, the way they cook their baked potatoes is that they get huge chunks of sea salt that are on the outside of it, and they wrap it up in foil, and so it sticks to the outside. So when they bring the potato to me, I eat the potato like a hot dog. I eat the entire skin and everything all at once, bite by bite. And on more than one occasion, one of the employees or someone else just eating there has looked over me and like, holy shit. One dude, the manager one day walked by and he's like, that's how you eat a fucking potato. One of the funniest things that's ever happened to me.
Dude, the biggest problem with Roadhouse is the fact that they default to the cinnamon butter. I don't like the cinnamon butter.
But I quite like the cinnamon butter. That's actually the reason I like theirs so much. So...
I don't know.
I'm going to tell you something, though. One thing I'm really curious about that I haven't had, and I should have had it while I was up there whenever we went, I have never had clam chowder.
Really?
Yeah. But the only thing I hear about clam chowder down here is it's terrible. So,
we have
to wait for Chris to actually have it.
Okay, we're good. This is important.
Okay, so, I've never had clam chowder, but of course I live in the South, and... From everybody I hear down here, it's not really good down here. So this is not the ideal place to have it. But when I went to Boston, really Leominster, I should have gotten it, is what I was told, because it's actually incredible in the Northeast.
So spoiler alert: clam chowder is my number one soup.
Really?
Yeah, it's the best. It's actively the only soup I'll actually order.
I mean, that's fair enough. I'm trying to think of what I want to give to my last. It's probably going to be like a tomato bisque, whatever you say.
Like on its own, or with a grilled cheese.
With a grilled cheese.
Okay, yeah.
It's the Wombo combo. By itself, I don't really love it, but yeah,
that's too much of a qualifier.
Yes, it's a bit of a cheat.
That'd be like putting Uncharted 1 on your number one games of all time because you really like Uncharted 2.
Okay, well, give me a second. I got to think something else in. If that's not going to count,
I'm not saying you can't count it. I'm saying it's a controversial opinion.
Taco soup.
Interesting. What's in it?
It's an interesting one. Taco soup? It's quite literally like fucking corn.
Beef.
You have all the stuff that you have pico, you have beef. Usually, but not always, you'll have corn chips that have been, slow soaked in it. So they have it almost brings in like the chicken and dumpling style thing where you have a really softened piece of corn tortilla in there, typically some lime juice and stuff like that in it. So it's just shit you'd expect from a taco, but in a soup. And it is incredible.
Interesting. All right. Well,
That's a really popular thing in the South. So it's probably a lot like clam chowder is for y'all. Like you can get taco soup almost anywhere down here.
no shit. Yeah, I've
You
never
can't
had
get
that.
clam chowder very many places around here, and almost every place that does have it, people are like, yeah.
Clam chowder, it's one of those things. Clam chowder is rare even up here. It's to the point where like I've told Sadie, I'm like, anywhere we go that has clam chowder, I'm buying the clam chowder. Like,
Let me ask you something from a qualifying standpoint. Does chili count as a soup to you? Because I fucking love chili.
no, I don't think it counts.
I
as
don't
soup.
think of it as a soup in the same way. So I chose to not have it.
This might be weird, but I don't think it's a soup because I think for all intents and purposes, you could eat a bowl of chili with a fork.
It depends on the chili. But
if you make
it's going to be okay often enough that it's problematic.
If you make chili right, you can eat it with a fork because chili is just wet meat. Like that's the point of it.
I don't know that I agree, man.
The beans are complimentary, like all that.
Yeah, that becomes the thing where
the
some people don't think that beans belong in chili.
I could go without.
I like beans and chili, but I also don't mind it when it's not. Another thing, Roadhouse's steak is really the last reason I go there. Roadhouse has this Texas red chili, which is incredible. It's really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. But yeah, no, chili's fantastic. I would put chili. Look, if we decided to classify chili as a soup, I would put it on my list.
Yeah, chili's incredible.
Have you had Cincinnati? Have you had Cincinnati chili?
No, I haven't.
It's just chili on top of pasta.
One of these days, I need to come up into your area and experience the food there. I did have a fucking tomahawk steak whenever I was in Leominster. And that's actually why I didn't get clam chowder, because we had a bunch of other shit. And we had a bunch of they gave, like, we had 2 of every one of the appetizers at this really expensive restaurant that was brought out to us. And I was just fucking shit up left and right. I mean, I was eating so much that by the time it came to choose clam chowder, I was like, I'd rather have the tomahawk steak and that be my finale for the night. It was incredible.
Dude, no joke. When I take Sadie on this trip, I'm planning on going to like a beach town. I'm going to go to one of these places and be like, can you give me a bunch of clam chowder that I can freeze dry and send it to my friend in Texas or Arkansas? He must try clam chowder.
Well, let's wrap this episode up, but I thought it was funny that you're talking about sending me something, because Buc-ee's did away with the pretzels for a long time.
Yeah.
And when we came back, we were on the way to there, and I said, I guarantee you that if they're there, I was like, it's the right time of year, they might have McRibbed that shit. And my friends were like, what do you mean? And I said, they took the shit away because it builds want. And then when it comes back, it sells even more, because suddenly this thing you've wanted for a long time is back.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
and
fair.
Sure as shit, here we are, and they were flying off the shelves because it's been gone, and everybody wanted it.
They're so good, though.
And that's why I was like, I gotta get a bag. I gotta send them to Chris. It's the tradition.
I was very happy when I saw it. And it's funny because I looked at the label and I was like, I don't know who the fuck this is from. Then I opened it. I'm like, oh, I know who this is from.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I'm gonna wrap this show up and go and spend a little bit of time with my wife. But thanks to everyone who hopped in and gave a listen to this kind of weird episode. We ended up still going 2 hours despite not having much to talk about. So without further ado, head over to patreon.com/Nartech if you want to support the show with more than just your time, which we are super thankful for. If you want to join those who have and give us a little over $1 per month to support the show and allow us to buy equipment, pay for hosting costs, all these different things, it's very appreciated. And we shout you out at the end of every episode as a way to thank you. So that starts with Duh Overlord, Spencer, Brandon Edwards, Alex, Barry Rogers, Stingray X, Matt Tubbs, Easton328, Aztec King, Bailey Robertson, Mark Schutz, Cypher Primus, Lecheon69, Kyle Grimm, Rude Days 93, Kevin Bacon Bits, Danny Villalobos, Jehudi MD, No Fate, Josh Ayers, Derek Porter, Matthew Green, and Sean Sanderud. Thanks to each and every one of you. We see you next week.
Doom, 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 doom.